Okay then, folks. So to carry on, I think it may have cut me short on the last video because it ran out of disk space. So just to finish that point off, I was explaining how the US Breastfeeding Committee helped to sponsor, helped to lobby Tammy Duckworth, the Illinois senator, for introducing that bill called the Friendly Airports for Mothers Improvement Act. This actually passed through the Senate and the House, so I'm guessing they must have done some lobbying of House members as well. You might want to have a look to find out. If you can find some examples of the lobbying House member, then that would be a great example to put for there as well. And as I said, it's something a bit different. Lots of people's essays won't mention it. And one problem with pressure group questions, or I'll rephrase that, one problem with pressure group answers is students will say, well, the NRA lobby Congress. Well, brilliant. It's better if you could give an example of them lobbying a certain member of Congress. So if you could say, the US Breastfeeding Committee lobbied Senator Duckworth directly over introducing a Friendly Airports for Mothers Improvement Act, that will give your answer that much more detail, and it will get them much better marks than just that generic. You can mention any pressure group, say they just lobby Congress, can't you? So that's what we're looking for, that detail. Okay, another reason why the Senate and also the House, for that matter, are both also targets for pressure groups. Again, it fits in with the presidency as well, is the fact they're elected. And so obviously pressure groups get very much involved in donating money, creating super PACs and all that kind of business, not just for presidential elections, but also for congressional elections. And again, this fits the Senate and the House. So, for example, in 2020, I had a quick look. Our friend Susan Collins from Maine, her largest donor was the Republican Jewish Coalition. She also received money from Blackstone Group. I'm not quite sure what they do. Again, you can have a quick look to find out. Going back to 2018, Sheldon Andelson, who's a casino owner, he donated $25 million to the Senate Leadership Fund PAC, and he donated $30 million to the Congressional Leadership Fund PAC. So again, donating money there to help certain candidates to defeat rivals. In terms of the House of Representatives then, well, we'll probably cover most of these points. Legislating, and so you can find out about groups which have targeted particular members of Congress. Election, because they're elected every 2 years as well, it means that those members of Congress, especially in more competitive districts, are more likely to receive or rely upon money and funding, aren't they, from pressure groups. Okay, so the third branch of government, as we know, is the Supreme Court. These people as well, and this institution is also gets attention from pressure groups, mainly because we know the decisions which the Supreme Court make are so fundamentally changing for America. So, for example, the fact they legalized abortion, or they struck down states who stopped abortion, more accurately, in the early 1970s. That's a very divisive issue. They prevented states from passing laws against gay marriage. There's a whole range of social and political things which the Supreme Court had decided on, and in many respects, they are the last kind of view on these things. And so what you see is pressure groups trying to get the judiciary to agree with their point of view. Now, obviously, we've already discussed this, is the appointment system to the Supreme Court. This, again, is very attractive to pressure groups to try and get senators to approve or not a certain candidate to be put forward on the Supreme Court. And, of course, it fits into that longer-term thing as well about trying to get the right president elected in the first place, either a liberal one or a conservative one, because they'll put judges on the courts which kind of generally go along with those particular views. So I don't want to go about appointments too much because we've already kind of covered that. But they also target the Supreme Court in other ways as well. One way is the Supreme Court cannot just make up a case. So someone or some institution could act unconstitutionally, but the Supreme Court can't just say, right, okay, then we think the president acted unconstitutionally, let's have a case about it. They've got to wait for a case to emerge in the legal system of the United States at some level. And if a case does emerge at some level of the legal system of the United States, the Supreme Court could say, we'll have that case and we'll bring it to the Supreme Court to have a look at. So they've got to wait for cases to come along, and pressure groups know this, and so pressure groups are very keen to use the legal system, lower down the system, to bring cases in the hope that the Supreme Court might pick them up if they think it's constitutionally important enough and then make a decision. It's a high risk strategy because the Supreme Court agrees with the aims, agrees with the case which the pressure group has kind of brought forward in a test case. It's happy days, isn't it? They've won. But if the Supreme Court goes the other way, then obviously their particular cause might be set back for quite a while. So this is a high risk thing. But every Supreme Court case we've come across, or you will come across when we do the Supreme Court, which has a pressure group name in the title, can be used as an example of a test case being put forward through the activities of a pressure group. So, for example, we've already mentioned when we did campaign finance, Citizens United versus the FEC. Citizens United is a conservative-leaning interest group or pressure group. We've also come across the National Federation of Independent Businesses versus Sebelius. This is the one about Obamacare in 2010. The National Federation of Independent Businesses, NFIB, is a pressure group. There's some other ones I noticed in the Supreme Court this year, or they made their decision on this earlier in 2020. Was New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus City of New York. It's about gun rights. So the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association is a pressure group. So again, bringing forward test cases. And the third way in which they target the Supreme Court is something called amicus curiae briefs. Amicus curiae is Latin for friends of the court. And what pressure groups tend to do, when there's a case before the Supreme Court, so the judges have said we want to take up that case, there's then a period where obviously the judges get the information about the case and the details. Well, pressure groups will often write what they call an amicus curiae, explaining why the judges should decide this case in this way or that way, essentially. How much notice the judges make of these briefs from the various pressure groups is not clear. I think Clarence Thomas once said that he never read them, but sometimes pressure groups reckon that they can see some of their phrasing and stuff in some of the final judgments made by the Supreme Court. They clearly must think it is important, and they must clearly think it must have some influence. Otherwise, why would they spend tens of thousands of dollars having lawyers drafting up amicus curiae briefs to present to the court in some kind of document? And in terms of numbers, let's have a look. The Obergefell versus Hodges, this is the one which struck down states who tried to stop gay marriage. They had over 148 amicus curiae briefs were sent to the Supreme Court. I had a quick look just to give an example. The American Psychological Association was one such group who'd actually submitted an amicus curiae brief. The NFIB versus Sebelius, our friend the Obamacare one, there are 136 amicus curiae briefs. Oddly enough, I discovered one of these amicus curiae briefs came from the Montana Sporting Association. I don't really know